All right, 2 games in the books, Justin. The Giants are 2-0. They play the Redskins this Sunday. What's your early take on this team? How different is it from last year's team?
Well, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is that they're finishing football games. I think that was a big component of why they lost some games down the stretch last year. Seems like this team is maturing rapidly. I like just how the defense came back out and pretty much controlled the game on their side of the football. Really limiting what New Orleans was able to do as far as efficiently scoring points. I think that's a big jump from the previous week. So I like how they've kind of matured over these 2 weeks, and looking forward for it to continue.
Anything in particular that has impressed you as far as area for the team?
I think overall, to be honest with you, I think, like I said earlier, I think the maturity level of this football team, being able to finish these close football games. In the NFL, man, it's rare that you're going to blow teams out. Most of the time, these games are going to come down to last-second drives or either that being on offense or defense. And I think individually, the biggest thing I see is the fact that seems like Victor Cruz is really, really returning and starting to return to being that elite style of slot receiver that he was previous to those injuries. And, that bodes very well for Eli and company on the offensive side of the ball, having that many weapons, being able to kind of spread the ball around. And I think, as this continues, it's going to continue to open things up in that vertical passing game.
All right, Justin, I need you to take me inside a defensive room where all the players are, and they're setting out the game plan for that week. And I'm going to ask you about Josh Norman here, because in the first game against the Steelers, they didn't let Josh Norman travel. In the second game, they didn't let him travel for the first half, and then they let him travel and follow the wide receiver for the Cowboys. So my point is, my point is this. In a defensive room like that, when a player lines up, and they hear the game plan, can a Josh Norman, a high-paid player, come up to the coach and say, Coach, I want to travel. I want to cover Antonio Brown?
I would think so. I would think that the fact that they gave him that type of money pretty much gives him a lot of ownership on that defense. I would suggest it. I don't know the numbers, but I'm thinking that he is the highest-paid person on that football team right now. If you're an elite-style player, well, that's defense or offense, I think coaches take into huge consideration what you say, what you think. As long as it's in a mode of helping the football team, I think they have to kind of grant him that wish if that's what he wants to do. I knew when I was there with the Giants, Spags really, came to guys like myself, O.C., Stray, Antonio Pierce, guys like that he knew he could trust. And I asked, what do we want to do? A lot of his game plans was put in place because of the things that we suggested to him after we watched film and after we, kind of proved to him that we can handle that type of capacity. So I would think if Josh came to, any coach on that team and said, I wanted to travel and cover the best wide receiver, but I honestly think they would want that. Why wouldn't you? They paid him like he's the elite cornerback. I would think you would want to match your elite guy up with their elite guy.
How much of the conversation this week has been about Beckham and Norman in those rooms, in the meetings? And if there is a lot of chatter, what exactly is being said to Beckham about what happened last year?
I tell Beckham to play football. I showed him the first half and the mistakes that he made, and I showed him the second half when he started to just play football. And I think he's the type of player that would see the difference. This game has never been about making it an individual battle. At the end of the day, the reason why Norman won last year is because Carolina won. No one cares, or at least I never did. I never saw anybody who did that cared about an individual battle when your team lost. So if I'm advising Beckham, I'm just telling him, listen, do what you do, because when you do what you do, there's nobody in this league. I don't feel like there's anybody in this league that can guard you. Only way they can guard you is if you take yourself out of the football game, which he did in the first half of last season's game.
Now, Justin, is that a player's job or is that a coach's job? Or could it be both?
I think it's both. Man. I think it's determined by the type of players you have on this football team. I see the only player on the Giants right now that has the capability of doing that is Eli. on other teams, there's people on defense that fills their role. But I think for the Giants, it should come from the head coach. It should come from the wide receiver coach. It should come from the offensive coordinator. And then, if need be, Eli kind of pulls him aside and saying, I'm coming to you this game. I need you to be the Beckham that you have been, and the rest of it take care of itself. I think that's how it plays out. And obviously, I've never got the opportunity to play with Beckham, so I don't necessarily know how he takes certain things. But if I'm in that locker room, I think the leadership on that football team has to know how to come at him to get him to really see. And I'm assuming that he doesn't already see. But that it might be the case that Beckham is the type of guy that comes forth and says, "Listen, I was messing up in the part of that game last year, and I cost my football team a chance to win, and it won't happen this game." So if that's the case, then no one has to say anything. But we're assuming that Beckham hasn't came forth and said that because I don't think either one of us know. But at the end of the day, it has to be some person in a leadership role to kind of do that due diligence.
But do you believe that the Redskins, he wasn't on the Redskins when it happened last year, but do you believe the Redskins want Josh Norman to do the same stuff to Beckham that he did last year, maybe take him out of his game, test to see if he can control himself?
Hello?
Hello? Justin? Hello?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. I said, now he was on Carolina last year. He's on the Redskins now. Do you think the Redskins want Josh Norman to act the same way? Because he obviously did take Beckham out. Do they want him to test him again to see if they could take him out of his game?
No, if I'm strategizing here with the Redskins, I would think you would want, if that's your play, it shouldn't come from Josh, because every officiating person in this game is going to be very, very keen on Josh Norman and the Beckham dynamic. If I'm Redskins, I might try to send somebody else to kind of rattle Beckham in this case, someone that maybe the referees aren't watching. But I think honestly in this game, I would believe the league has really made a point to this officiating crew to kind of watch the chippiness. And, I think they're going to kind of control it from the get-go. So I think what you saw play out last year, I don't think it will at all in this game.
Well, let me ask you about last year. And even Tom Coughlin bought into it, too, with the Panthers coming out with baseball bats and the intimidation factor. How would Justin Tuck player feel if the opposition came out with baseball bats? Would it intimidate you? Would it anger you? Or would you laugh?
I would laugh. I mean, that would be hilarious to me. But at the end of the day, man, this is so. I think you guys know that I'm more of an old school player than I am a new school player, right? Mm-hmm. So, like the whole Josh Norman Beckham thing, the cheat. Like if I'm Beckham's teammate, and I grew up in the NFL with guys like Rich Sherbert and O'Hara and Kareem McKenzie and Snead, and all these guys, David Deal, these guys would have went to the offensive coordinator and said, you know what, let's run our counterplay and let me pull and be the guy that goes and blocks, that cornerback, that Josh Norman on the end. And I guarantee you that after doing that about 3 or 4 times where I got my Chris Snead pulling out there at 330 pounds and one of the strongest guys in the league to absolutely decapitate a Josh Norman. And I know from playing with him that Chris Snead would have probably gave him an extra push off the ground and said something like, if you touch my wide receiver again, this is what's going to happen to you the rest of the game. And that tends to stop a lot of the chippiness. So, I would have liked to have seen somebody on an offensive line. I mean, sometimes you got to get a personal foul to set a tone. Sometimes you have to do something to say, I got my teammates back. And it sets the tone for what the rest of the game is going to be like. So, yeah, bring your baseball bats out in the pregame and all that is cool. But once you come in these white lines, and I strap my helmet on and you strap yours on, I guarantee you, at the end of the day, you're going to know that, all that pregame show was for naught. And, I mean, that's the kind of locker room I grew up in, and that's what I would like to see the Giants get back to, being a nastier football team. That's what the NFC East to me means. And, somewhere, we kind of got away from that.
Final thing, we're talking with Justin Tuck, his weekly spot on the show. It seems like there's some dissension in the Redskins locker room about Kirk Cousins. Some people are bailing on him. Some people are criticizing him, but they're not attaching their name to it. And one of the players in the Redskins said, you know what? Don't be a coward. How did you feel about guys that would knock people and didn't give their name?
I never liked it at all. I remember at the end of my tenure at the Giants, we had some guys that kind of said some bad things about Coach Call in the media and didn't say their names. And, I went in the media and said something about it, that I think in the NFL, in the league that we play in, we have a perception that everybody's a grown man. If you got a problem with another grown man, then that issue needs to be taken up with that other man. It shouldn't be, addressed behind the screen of being able to talk to a reporter or somebody anonymously. I think that really divides the football team. I think it really, definitely hurts the culture of a football team. And I've never seen anything good come from the anonymous source. So I've never been a fan of it. And I think, I always believe that, if you have the courage to say something, you should stand behind it. So it shouldn't be any anonymous.
Did you ever have a guy on a team that you played on that you knew was giving out anonymous quotes that you confronted him?
No, I don't. My confrontation with that type of issue would have been in a team meeting. It would have been, in a players-only meeting where I didn't necessarily need to know who the player was.
Right.
I would address the entire team in that play, and also challenge other players. If you knew if anybody was doing that, then it's not a telltale. It's not I'm telling on so and so and so. No, it's about the makeup of our football team. And if anyone is going behind anyone else's back to talk badly about them, then that person is sabotaging what we're trying to build here. So that's the kind of way I would approach it.
Good stuff, Justin. We thank you. We'll talk to you next week.